We have a rare instance of justice being served. We have a jury on Thursday convicted Dylann Roof of slaughtering 9 black members of a Charleston, South Carolina church. He was convicted of 33 different federal charges, from hate crimes to the obstruction of the practice of religion to, of course, murder. He walked into the historic Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church, commonly referred to as Mother Emanuel, in June 2015, and there was a Bible study going on, and he sat with the congregation members before he took out a gun and went on a rampage, and he massacred everybody in sight. This was, of course, a horrific, disgusting terrorist attack. Now, not everybody calls it a terrorist attack, but they're wrong to not call it a terrorist attack. It is the textbook definition of a terrorist attack. You have somebody who's committing an act of violence for a political reason. You know, terrorism is committing an act of violence for a political or religious reason. He's doing it for a political reason. The reason being, you can read, he had a manifesto where he lays out, I believe in Rhodesia, I believe in apartheid South Africa, I believe in the Confederacy, I hate that these blacks are raping our women on a daily basis, and they're beasts, and they're inferior, and we're superior, and I want to start a race war. So he was a white supremacist terrorist. There's no way around that. And I think it's sad that people don't call him a terrorist, because what that means is, in their mind, it's just reserved for, it's only when a Muslim does an act of violence in the name of religion, then we'll call somebody a terrorist. But if it's a white supremacist or a Christian supremacist or any other version, even like a communist, some sort of communist who does an act of violence in order to push further their political ideology, it's just not used in other contexts, and it should be used in other contexts. So they found him guilty. They haven't decided yet if they're going to go for the death penalty or not. See, it's times like this where I feel compelled to have the conversation about the death penalty yet again, because I'm against the death penalty, but I'm only against the death penalty because, according to a study, we covered the study about a year and a half ago or so, 4% of people on death row didn't do it, which is crazy. I mean, that's really nuts when you think about it. 4% of people didn't do it. I mean, you're murdering 4 out of every 100 people you kill on death row. So that's a system where you are killing innocent people because killing innocent people is a crime. That's a contradiction I can't get over. So by that logic, we have to give the death penalty system the death penalty. You see what I'm saying? So I can't have it because of that. Now, where I differ from other liberals and progressives, or I should say many other liberals and progressives, because I'm sure some agree with me, and I'm sure some are in favor of the death penalty, but where I disagree with them is when we have a case of somebody who we know for sure did it, he admitted to doing it. In fact, the jury got to see his admission. He's like, look, let's cut to the chase. You know I did it. I know I did it. There's like video of him walking fucking out of the church. They know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows he did it. When you have a case like this where it's a slam dunk case and there is zero hope for rehabilitation, there's just no hope for rehabilitation. Well, I would view killing Dylann Roof, I wouldn't shed a goddamn tear. I wouldn't shed a single tear. It wouldn't keep me up at night. I wouldn't feel bad about it. I would in no way, shape, or form do a moral equivalence on this issue where he guns down 9 innocent people who were just at a freaking Bible study. And then what? Are we really going to make the argument? Oh, the state would be just as evil as him in killing him as he killed those innocent people. You don't even believe that. Even if you're a liberal, you don't believe that. You think those killings are equal? You think killing Dylann Roof is equal to the level of immorality of Dylann Roof massacring 9 innocent people who did nothing wrong to anybody? That's just not true. I can't get behind that argument. That's just inaccurate. That's false. I don't agree with that. So I wouldn't feel bad if they come out and they say, yeah, we're going with the death penalty for him. I wouldn't feel bad, and I wouldn't be out there fucking protesting against it. Now, there are liberals who probably would go out there and say, you know what, no, we got to be better and blah, 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 so I'm going to go out there and do it. But again, that's where I separate from other liberals, and maybe you could say I'm not as liberal or whatever it is, but I struggle with this. I struggle with this issue where you have somebody who you know did it, there's zero hope for rehabilitation, and to get rid of Dylann Roof, I'm going to be harsh, but I think it's true, you're just eliminating a problem. The guy's a problem. He's a bad person. So there is no benefit. There is no gain to keeping him around. And furthermore, like if I were to talk to the families of the people who were murdered, and they were to say, kill him, I'm pressing that button, man. Again, maybe that makes me a bad liberal or whatever, but in a weird way, I actually think that would be the more liberal thing to do. Because what you're doing is your sympathy is reserved for the victim of the crime. If you were to stand up and argue on behalf of him when we know he did it and we know there's no hope for rehabilitation, and even the family's like, I would sleep better at night if you got rid of him, I feel like the more liberal thing is to say, my sympathy remains with the victims and fuck this monster. You see what I'm saying? Now, again, I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this for whatever reason, but I felt the need, I felt compelled to come out here and explain to you my line of thinking. And also here's an important point that I think never is discussed, which is the argument against the death penalty, which resonates better with people, is mine. Now, I'm not saying that for like conceited fucking, self-aggrandizement reasons. I'm saying that for strategic reasons. Because when it comes to, when you look at the polls, the American people are overwhelmingly liberal. I mean, on virtually every issue. They're like, yeah, we want to stop the wars overseas. Yeah, we want to raise the minimum wage. Yeah, we want to tax the rich more. Yeah, we want to not cut Social Security and education spending. I mean, you name the issue, I will show you the poll, legalize marijuana. The American people are liberal. They're just liberal. There's one very important issue where they are not liberal: the death penalty. So with that being the case, I'm of the belief we can sway them to be against the death penalty, but we ain't going to do it with the goofy argument of, oh, it is equally immoral for the state to murder Dylann Roof as it is for Dylann Roof to murder those innocent people. Because I don't think that's true, and I think people will scoff at you if you say that. They'll go, yeah, that's just as bad as us to fucking have a process and find a guy guilty who did it and have a punishment for it as somebody who murdered innocent people and shot him in the face. Idiot, liberal, bleeding heart, pussy bitch. That's going to be the response. But there is, again, I think there's one argument that could win him over, because it's the argument that won me over, which is the only reason I'm against the death penalty is because by definition, if you have a death penalty system, you are gonna get some of the wrong people. And if you get some of the wrong people, that means you're okay with murdering innocent people sometimes. And that's not okay. You shouldn't be okay with that. That is a fucking savage, barbaric thing to believe. That, yeah, every now and then we kill an innocent one, so it is what it is, whatever. No, that's monstrous. So you can convince people on that argument, I think. People who aren't usually involved in politics and they just want to give you their opinion on it, people like that. I think you can convince them by saying we kill the wrong people all the time and that's unacceptable. I don't think you can convince them with the argument of the more liberal argument or perceived more liberal argument of, hey, it's morally equivalent if we kill him as him killing those innocent people. Because I don't think that resonates. I don't think that's true. And I think the polls are on our side. I think we haven't been using the argument for the broader population of we kill the wrong people, because I think that's the argument that would get them to flip it. And it would be, the polls would be on our side on the death penalty too if we keep making that argument. But if we keep making bad arguments, like making a moral equivalence between Dylann Roof and the justice system that might put him to death, I think you're going to keep losing that argument and the death penalty will remain popular. That's just my take on it. I wanted to share my thoughts on the death penalty with you guys. I'm against it and I'd get rid of the system, but I am not going to shed a goddamn tear. I'm not going to be disturbed for a second if they decide we're done with this guy. This guy's getting it.